Does anybody remember what the weather was like 2 weeks ago? This is much better, isn't it? I agree. We come together and we continue to move through the Easter season, and in fact, we're quickly coming to the end. Easter is something that seems, as a celebration, so far away. You know, it was 5-6 weeks ago was Easter Sunday, and lots has happened in between. We've had First Communion celebrations, we've had confirmations, we have baptisms and another one tonight, and lots of different things have happened in our church and our personal lives, that at least Easter seems like such a distance and so far away. But the church considers this such an important season that it gives us this very long period of time to reflect on the scriptures, particularly the Acts of the Apostles and also the Gospel of John, which in particular deal with the early church and the risen Christ in those very early days. The early part of the Easter season is primarily deals with, the disciples experiencing the risen Christ for the first time. Moving from fear to really, in a sense, kind of a very calmness and a peace, but also a boldness in proclaiming that Jesus is not dead, but he is alive. Remember the immediate days or weeks after Easter found the disciples locked in the upper room for fear that what happened to Jesus was going to happen to them. But today, we have Peter, once again, moving about and going into different towns and villages and boldly proclaiming this risen Christ. And it's like nothing can stop them now. The Holy Spirit is so powerful and has really, in a sense, transformed them into something, a force that just cannot end. So the latter part of the Easter season, always to me, is about, in a sense, kind of a peek into what that early community was like as it was developing and it was growing. We get a very rich example of that in the story that we hear today, particularly in the Acts of the Apostles. Peter had gone into a different area outside of Jerusalem, and he was proclaiming the good news. And Peter brings with him, I think, as that we all do, in a sense, kind of our preconceived notions of the way we think that things should be, whether it be the church, whether it be our homes, whether it be the town that we live in, the schools that we send our children to, or whatever it may be. We have these, in a sense, kind of understandings, our hopes, or we get these kind of little snippets of things, and we kind of form opinions that this is the way things are and the way things always should be. In Peter's case, he is of this Jewish background. And of this Jewish background, there are certain foods you did not eat. There are certain people you did not interact with. If you were of the Jewish faith, that means that you were really born into it. Outsiders were not necessarily welcome. They were, in a sense, kind of a special class of people, God's chosen ones. And it was passed down from one generation to the next. And newcomers, pretty rare, if ever, were they welcomed into this new way. And so when Peter is out boldly proclaiming this, he is, in a sense, kind of expecting to talk to simply Jews. And that's it. That's who he's trying to convert. That you are Jewish, you're still going to be Jewish, but, there's a new way here. This guy here, who also was Jewish, he really isn't dead. And that makes our life a little bit different, but we're still not going to get rid of some of our customs and practices. But the Lord has a different notion. Now, we get little parts of this particular reading from the Acts of the Apostles, but there are major sections that are left out of what we heard tonight. And part of this is that Peter, in the midst of this speaking to this group of people, also has this vision where he is presented with foods that he has been forbidden himself to eat, certain dietary customs. And the vision says, it's okay to eat these things. Do it in front of these people so that they see it. And in fact, the Acts of the Apostles tells us Peter did just that. Not only that, this was, in a sense, kind of a door and an opening to a window for, Cornelius and his family. Cornelius was a Roman citizen. He was not Jewish. He was moved by the Spirit, and he came and he knelt down before Peter, and he says, I want to be part of your way. Now, those who are with Peter are like, no way. That's not possible. You have to first take on the law of Moses before that can happen, and this is not permitted. But Peter says, absolutely. If the Spirit has already moved this person to want this, who am I to stop? And so Peter, in a sense, says it is important that we baptize him right now and his family. That's a major, major shift. Peter, in a sense, kind of the scales from his eyes, his notions of the way he feels that his community, his faith, his way of life always has been and always should be, begins to, in a sense, kind of disintegrate and fall apart right there. And that the church becomes not just this small little sect open to only certain people, but really open to everyone, to all of us. That's a good thing, because probably most of us wouldn't be sitting here tonight if it were not for Peter having these experiences and others as well. So that's why I say the Acts of the Apostles, in a sense, kind of gives us, in a sense, a little look into what the early church was like. And it's a challenge to us as well. What, in a sense, kind of gets in our way, of seeing the way the world is, or that maybe it has changed, or maybe that it is changing and something very different is happening. Last night I had dinner with my parents and some other friends, and we were sitting there, and at one point my mom says, "That's just not the way things used to be. They've changed." And I said, "Well, that's a good thing." And she goes, "Well, why do you say that?" And I said, usually when she says that, I'm like, this is not going to go very well. But I said, well, and I kind of start to lay out the things, and I said, the world changes all around us. It's a very different way that we do things in a lot of different aspects of life. And that, in a sense, is something to be accepted and welcomed in some ways. And that's tough for us. It's tough for us to let go of that. It's tough for us to, in a sense, kind of say that the world is changing around us. We grow, we develop. I'm taller, I'm fatter, I'm balder than I used to be. And, that's just the way it is. Physically, we change. Emotionally, we change. Spiritually, we change. Our church does as well. That, I think, is the challenge. Peter was open to this. He was moved by the Spirit and said, this is okay. This is good. Even our community tonight, we're going to change in front of us. We're going to welcome this child to be baptized, a new member, new life coming into our faith and into our way. How many kids is this for you? 4. Your life has changed too, hasn't it? Yes, it has. See, change happens. And as he grows and develops, they will teach him ways of faith. Their family will adjust and welcome this new member as well. And different relationships, different roles within the family change as well. It's all around us. It's happening. Peter said, yes. Who am I to stop this? And I think that we can all say the same thing as well. This time I invite the parents and the godparents of the child to be baptized to please stand. As your child grows and develops, you will teach him